2025 high school track has been wild. There's a generational talent in nearly every track event. Sorry, field. But then there's the sprints. The best way I can describe it, it's like we're watching LeBron James back in high school, except there's 3 of them.
Williams, Gleaton, Taylor's involved.
So let's set the scene. Prior to 2025, we'd only ever seen 3 high schoolers run under the elusive 10-second barrier, each one considered an anomaly. Then in the first 6 months of 2025, 4 more would emerge. And of these 4, the 3 fastest would just so happen to hail from the same country and head to the same national championships. It's a story ripped straight out of your favorite sports anime. High school junior, Tate Taylor, the fastest American high schooler in history and the second fastest under 20 ever. Senior, Braden Williams, multiple windy sub-10s and the fastest high schooler all conditions in history. Senior, Maurice Gleaton, who just the other week was hot off crippling some of the world's fastest men. And there's some debate to be had, but arguably, these are the 3 fastest high schools ever over the 100 meters at the same start line in the same year. And it actually lived up to the hype.
Underway, that is a big start for Williams. Williams, Gleaton, Taylor's involved. Tate Taylor at the end!
By the skin of his teeth, Tate Taylor by 100th. In his dang reading glasses. 10.1 seconds, no wind, not quite the time many were expecting, yet you won't catch me complaining. That was a satisfying finish to what was realistically a race between the greatest high school sprinting prospects we've ever seen. My final conclusion, yeah, Taylor won, but both him and Gleaton are equally terrifying talents. If they stay healthy and in good condition, which are big ifs considering they didn't even show up to the 200 the next day, they could seriously stir up trouble later this year. I mean, Gleaton already did the other week, and now we've just learned that Taylor's as fast as him at the bare minimum. Wow, my thoughts on Williams the other hand. Not only is his second time being beat, but visually, as a shorter explosive type, he's going to have some trouble finding that next level. And okay, I'll address it. As I've alluded to, the race was slow. Slower than the disappointing NCAA final, but unlike them, the weather here was genuinely awful. The track was wet, sapping force out of every step. It was visibly raining, soaking clothes, shoes, hair, increasing weight and drag in every way. And it was cold. 53 Fahrenheit in summer is depressing. Nature failed these boys. No one else to blame. It's unfortunate, but the conditions were nearly as far from perfect as possible, stealing from us what could have been a mythical high school 9.9 showdown. Can't be mad, just a little bit sad. So while the times didn't exactly deliver, the race certainly did. And I personally believe this is our second chance at 2023. If you know, you know. Now let's talk Cooper Lutkenhaus. Last week, the 16-year-old sophomore, they just keep getting younger, whipped a 1:46 clock in an all-high school 800-meter race, cracking a legendary American high school record that stood for 29 years.
Lutkenhaus is going to hold him off and take the... That is a new high school record.
When a record standing for that long goes down, the stars had to align. The right athlete and the right race and the right conditions. When one of these are off, it just doesn't happen. At the high school Nike Nationals on the soggy Oregon track, Nielsen booms out to an unreasonably quick lead in the boys' 800 meter, running so far ahead he made drafting impossible and striking fair into the other runners, taking the first lap in a blazing sub 52 seconds. But Lutkenhaus stays mature, running his own race behind him, only making a well-educated move on the back stretch, whipping his way into the lead. Behind him, Lutz did fight hard to stay within striking distance, but if it wasn't clear already, the pace was stupid hot for mere high schoolers, and in the final stretch, it'd be clear only one athlete could endure it.
26 is the national record going to go down again. It looks like it. Yes! 1:45.45. He did it again!
In 2 weeks, a 16-year-old put an entire second on a record that stood for 29 years. That's also an age grade 16 world record. Naturally, people in forums are already projecting his talent, saying stuff like 1:44.18. And that seems really conservative. Look at this race. He popped a 1:45 in 11-degree weather running through puddles and rain. A record is usually broken by the right athlete in the perfect conditions. But it takes a real monster to do it even when Mother Nature is against them. With 2 more years of high school, he's going to destroy the American record books. Although toppling the East Africans, that's a whole nother story. And while Nike Nationals was highlighted by the boys, a middle school girl stole the New Balance Nationals. Cameron Daly. I usually don't feel comfortable hyping up literal children. At 13, it's a dice roll as to whether it's real talent or just an early puberty. But when you're this fast, you're basically only a stride away from being an elite level anyway.
And that is exactly what we're seeing here. 11:39.
This 11:39 was done in a prelim race, by the way. And as if I have to say it, no 13-year-old girl has ever ran this fast before, and it's not close. Here's a wild stat for you. 11:39 is faster than Sha'Carri Richardson's 2025 season opener. Not only are most of us slower than a 13-year-old, I'm doing a lot of assuming here, but currently, so was last year's Olympic silver medalist. And don't you say early season, this shouldn't happen regardless. And then she doubled up for the 200, winning in a close race. Why are other 13-year-olds close to her?
Incredible weekend after a big meet record in the 100.
22.92 seconds, followed by Arundel, 23.21. And again, Daly faster than both of Sha'Carri's 200 openers last year, where Sha'Carri Richardson placed top 3 at Diamond Leagues. And as a middle schooler, she would have come 3rd overall in the 200 meters across the high school division. And you know what's most sickening of all? This 22.92 wasn't even a new personal best for her. At this age, predicting where talent ends up is an impossible task. In many such cases, it really is just early development. But with these times, no joke, she could be a semi-professional today if she wasn't from the US. Although some people would argue the MVP of the New Balance meet was a high school junior, Natalie Dumas. At New Balance, she won gold in the 400 hurdles, 400 flat, and 800 meters, sweeping the 3 most painful events in the entire sport. That's more mental strength than David Goggins. All 3 of the times she ran being close to high school records in their respective events. And it's just so insane to be 3 events deep and still run a 2 flat in the 800 as a junior. She's got another year of this.
Turns away every challenge and runs just over 2 flat. 1, 2, 3 for Natalie Dumas.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the Paris Diamond League, which kind of feels like it was forever ago. Undoubtedly, the men's 1500 was the talk of the meet. Azeddine Habz, who frankly I didn't know the name of, Let's Run didn't know the name of, and they're the distance guys.
And one of them's a 31-year-old French guy.
Ran a gun-to-tape victory, obviously besides the paces in front of him, but he pulled an entire field of filler 1500 guys. None of the Olympic podium were here, to 13 personal bests out of a field of 14 athletes. Individually, he ran a time so fast, it's now made him the 6th fastest in history. And coach behind him, an 18-year-old, ran an under 20 world record by over an entire second.
27.49! What a run from Azeddine Habz! He slots himself into 5th place on the all-time list.
Usually, the moment you see 3:27 on the clock, you know it's stupid fast. It's a mark reserved for all-time greats, almost no exceptions. Take a look at this list. Every single one of these athletes have won a global championship, multiple even, or at least gotten a medal in some stacked championship races. Except now, with the addition of Habz and cohort. This was a complete anomaly. Habz is a 31-year-old athlete who, to be fair, had run some fantastic personal bests, but his best finish at a world championship was 11th in 2023, and cool fact, he's now the oldest on this list of legends by over 5 years. While cohort is on the complete other side of the spectrum, he's the youngest by far, and according to World Athletics, this is his 2nd official 1500 meter race? What does it even mean? Is this the emergence of the greatest talent in middle distance running? I don't know. As is the case many times, only time will tell. People have debated online that he looks old and could be a case of age doping, which East Africans are known for, and genuinely, I don't really agree. Sometimes anyway. He's got a bit of a baby face if he wasn't so thin, and secondly, even if age doping is the case, he still ran a 3:27, a top 10 time ever. Distance has been getting really weird. From the 1500 to the 5k, you simply can't pick a favourite to win right now. Okay, now what do you think is the craziest event this year? And whatever you answered, it's wrong. It's the women's 100 hurdles. This week, Grace Stark and Paris took down a stacked field, as per usual, in another baffling time of 12.21 seconds.
So quick between the barriers, she manages it.
Dropping 0.1 off her PB, and Amazon, the world record holder, ran right behind her into her 2nd fastest time ever, 12.24. And they lost their shit.
Personal best. That Where does that put her on the all-time list?
So why are these times baffling? Well, let me lay down some numbers. Last year, the fastest time we saw was a 12:24 by Akira Nugent, which is fast. That was a top 5 time ever at the time. Yet in 2025, we've seen a 12:17, 12:19, and today 12:21 and 12:24. That's 4 of the 7 fastest times ever through history done this year alone, and before the World Championships. And on the men's, Holloway got dog walked for the 2nd time this year. Ahead at 60 meters, his leash gets tugged and he falls back. But do look at the times. 13:11 for 5th, Trey Cunningham 13 flat for the win, and 4 dudes at 13:0. 13:11 isn't even too different from what Holloway was running last season, and he won 13 out of 15 of his races. I'm not going to say he hasn't lost a step, it's just more like everyone else has upped their game. Like 4 people just ran 13:0. Out of the 15 races Holloway ran last year, we only saw that one other time, and that was at the US trials where they were all just going berserk. And that was my version of the week. But here's some extra stats. At Paris, Paulino beat Nacer again in a 400, and while the gap between them shrinks, so does the time on the clock. Funnily enough though, that makes it 11 wins to Paulino and 1 to Nacer across their career. And for those keeping up, Valerie Ullman has been on a win streak since mid-2023, 25 consecutive wins. But in Paris, heading into the final round, she was in 3rd, before launching the discus, screaming like a dang banshee.
From 3rd to 1st, 66-42. Yes!
I honestly couldn't stop laughing when I saw this live, and getting her 26th win in a row on her very final effort. Tune in next week, I think by the time this video comes out, actually today, Gout runs internationally. FMK Bowl races Nacer in the 400 flat, and later in the week, the Jamaican World Championship trials.